for a lot of people, you look at this, what appeared to be a relatively small, very extremist terrorist organization carrying out terrible acts of brutality. How is it that they're suddenly able to just move into, say, Iraq and take over huge swaths of territory, occupy and control the entire city of Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq? It's a huge city. Mm-hmm. You know, we're talking about a situation now where ISIS controls somewhere between 5 and 6 million people. It's governing a big piece of territory. And that was kind of hard to sort out. So I was trying to look at how is it that they managed to have such power? They don't have magical power because they're such strong believers in Islam or anything else. They have such power because they don't fight alone. Mm-hmm. And what I found in this research is that there were really sort of, particularly in Iraq, 3 arenas where they were getting massive support that made it possible for them to take over territory and govern cities and huge numbers of people. One was, where did they get their military strategy, their military training? You know, they're getting people who maybe they had some training as, quote, terrorists. You know, they knew how to rig bombs or something. But they didn't really know how to occupy territory and fight a conventional war, which is partly what they did. Well, they got that training and they got that strategy from a bunch of Iranian generals, mainly Sunni, who had been, as you said, who had lost their jobs, who had been kicked out. When the U.S. first invaded and occupied Iraq, the first thing it did was to dismantle the military.
Just to interrupt for a second, I think you said Iranian generals, and I think you meant Iraqi generals.
I'm sorry, you're exactly right. Iraqi generals who had been powerful during the years of Saddam Hussein's rule. They had a lot of money to support their families. They had a lot of influence. They had a lot of credibility. And suddenly they're thrown out of their positions and they've got nothing, right? They've got no job. They have no way to support their family, nothing. So in that context, you have a scenario where they have been very angry and they're looking for somebody that they can ally with to fight back against this new sectarian government that has suppressed them and that is carrying out horrific attacks against the Sunni community. You know, mass arrests of young Sunni men, torture in prison, extrajudicial killings of large numbers of Sunni activists, the bombing of a nonviolent Sunni protest camp. It's been really terrible. So they ally themselves with ISIS, not because of the violence of ISIS and the extremism. These guys are mostly pretty secular. Let's be clear. You know, they drink, they smoke. But they were willing to ally themselves with these guys because they saw that as a way to go against the government. Then there were the Sunni militias, the tribal leaders who have militias at their control. And they joined with ISIS, again, not because they support the extremism, but despite that, because the sectarianism of the government was so terrible that it just seemed like the lesser evil. And then third, a large number, certainly not all or even a majority necessarily, but a large number of ordinary Sunnis threw in their lot with ISIS because they saw it as the only option for protecting their rights, protecting Sunni rights against the depredations of the government. So this whole question of how are they winning? How are they keeping territory in the face of these global and regional attacks has to do with who they fight with.